I'm a sound engineer.
Ah, fair.
It's what I do. It's what I do. No, it's what I do. Like when I mix, like it depends on what it is. Like I'm not gonna make like a really bouncy project or whatever. I'm not gonna do a very bouncy mix for like a jazz mix. That would not make sense.
Hmm.
But for pop rock or whatever, I tend to be like, hey, like listen, the tendency nowadays is to have something that's more like people like something that's a little dancey or whatever. Like your song could maybe benefit to being a little more bouncy. Let's just like.
Welcome to Metaverse Degen. I'm Lion.
I'm Old Man Raptor, and we got one hell of a guest today, and that is.
Hi, my name is Kookie.
Oh, thank you very much for joining us, Cookie. It's an absolute pleasure.
Yes, we appreciate it very much so.
Oh, so what are you most known for, and how'd you get started with everything and into the platform?
Oh, that's a very good question. I'm most known for my songwriting and my singing. I'm a singer-songwriter. Around on VRChat, I started performing a little over a year ago now.
Hmm.
We are in October after all. Um, and well, it was at the time Virality, Silva. I happened to decide that day like, oh, let's check out virality. And I went to check out virality and I saw there was a panel for musicians. Now, I was a musician, I had been for years and years, and also was a sound engineer, but I that happened very early in my transition. By the way, I'm a trans woman. I go by she, her. Um, I I had at that time thought I would never sing again because of my voice. I was like, no, like I don't feel like singing anymore. I hate my voice. And I go there and I feel pretty safe. So I take out the 12 string and I just start strumming. And I see people just like plump down and listen. And I was like, wow, okay. And so I start humming a little bit. And then I get comfortable and I start singing. And that was pretty cool. And for some reason in this lobby, there happened to be a very sleepy purple time spirit by the name of Corbell. Now, I didn't know who Corbell was. Like, granted, I was pretty new to VRChat at the time, and um, so it's kind of funny. I go to see next to Corbell. I'm like, wow, this name kind of reminds me of that song by the Cranberries, Cordell, which is about someone who died. And like Corbell is sleeping, and I'm like, oh, okay, let's go. So I took my guitar and I'm like, Corbell, time will tell. They say that you went to sleep, and they say you've gone to a better place. And I start singing, and like Corbell like turns around, and is like, "Wow, you sing so good. Uh, do you want to like play at a concert?" I'm like, sure, but that was just like a cover for fun. Like, that's not even one of my songs. Like, I have originals. I'm like, yeah, here, and I start singing original. Anyway, time goes and I end up playing at Ferality. No, not for blah, 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 not Ferality. For Cello.
Hmm.
Um, and that basically started it all for me. And I pretty much played in VR ever since. Like at first every month, then every 2 weeks, then every week, and then several times a week.
Oh, wow. So, a question I'll ask before you get going into your VR stuff: what got you started with the music, and yeah, let's start with that.
What got me started with music? That's a good question. Because it's not as easy and streamlined as you think. My background with music is very spotty when I was a kid. Um, my dad always had the guitars at his place because my dad plays the guitar a little bit. And so I grew up with watching my dad play fingerstyle guitar and listening to that. But I was not really drawn to it for some reason. But around my parents were like, no, but you need to learn an instrument because it's important one day if you're on rough times. It's easier if you have an instrument. I didn't grow up in a very fortunate family, so that was the incentive. So I'm like, I guess I'll play the guitar. We have guitars here, and I took like a class, and I didn't like the teacher. I didn't like what he was making us play, and so I stopped. I must have been 7 at the time. Fast forward like a couple years when I'm 13, I'm like, maybe I'll play the piano. And so I take 2 years of lessons of piano, and I don't like, I find I don't like, um, learning the scores and just like mechanically, you know, interpreting the music. And I spend all my time that I have on the piano just noodling around, just playing and listening to what sounds good. So it doesn't go very far. And I'm like, maybe music is not for me. And for some reason in my high school years, I find this YouTube video by a French influencer who talks about metal. He's like, yeah, here's all the types of metal. It was very cringe. But for some reason, among the songs he shows is Fear of the Dark by Iron Maiden. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And so I started listening to Iron Maiden, and I started listening to the entire discography of Iron Maiden. And I'm like, oh my God, I want to play the electric guitar. And so I managed to get my parents to buy me an electric guitar for Christmas. And ever since that day, I haven't stopped playing. I got some 2.5 years of lessons. Then I went, when I turned 18, I went to study across the country. And yeah, I've been playing by myself ever since. It's been 12 years now.
Oh, wow. So since you've been playing, how much music have you written, and do you still use some of the stuff from before VR, or do you have or it's only after
Oh,
VR?
yeah, that's also a very interesting question. I wrote my first song when I was 18. Um, I had been written poetry before that in French when I was in high school.
Mhm.
And after going to study, I started writing them starting a little bit of writing more in English and talking more in English in general online. Because that's also about the time that I started being active as a furry online.
Hmm.
I know it doesn't look that way now, but yeah. So I started, being active online as a furry, and I got I met a drummer at university, and so we started hanging out together and making very bad hard rock. And so I wrote a song with him one day. We were in math class and we both had horrible grades, and we just decided to leave the class and go to his place to play.
Hmm.
And I called it School Rage Quit, and it was very cringe. But I remember at the time I was like, wow, I can write song. That's cool. I want to write more. So I started writing more, and I had this little tiny notebook that my sister had gifted me, and so I wrote my songs in that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so I wrote a couple that were also pretty cringe for my band at the time, so we had more members join. And then around 2015, so when I was 19, my friend Tessa passed away. And I knew her like from the furry fandom, and we would talk on TeamSpeak or on Skype a lot. And she passed away, and that was devastating. And so I started writing the lyrics to a song that I didn't have the title at the time. So I called it like Eternal Road Trip or something. But that song ended up being my song that I still sing today, Tessa's song. But for some reason, I couldn't manage to put the chords to it. And I only managed to do that about a year ago. Like after my transition.
Hmm.
And the thing is that Tessa was a trans woman, and she was the first trans woman I met, and that made me realize, oh, wait, hold on. Maybe that's what I am. So there's a lot of deep meaning. And so I guess that answers a little bit of your question of, do I use old material? Yes, I do. Color Me Shocked is also a song I wrote at that time, but it was a fan music for a webcomic called Zestopia AU, which was about which was a comic that went on the second draft of the um of the screenplay for Zootopia.
Oh, wow.
And I recently changed the words to be less about Zootopia and more about trans people.
I
That's
see.
about it.
Okay. So what before you come into VRChat, did you ever play any of your music live for people, or was VRChat your introduction to the whole performance thing?
I played Sultans of Swing live in my music school in that second year before I stopped taking classes.
Hmm.
That was the extent of my live experience. I would not call that a live performance, to be honest. But it was my first time, I guess, singing and playing at the same time and realizing I liked that. Um, and yeah, then VRChat was my opportunity to actually play live and play a lot. And I always wondered, like, oh, is it gonna translate if I ever play live in real life? And I was like, oh, I don't know, let's not bother about that. It's great, I have a great thing here. Then around when was that? I want to say, that must have been like early March, maybe earlier than that. I got approached to play at Oral Alliance Festival in Germany, and I was like,
Oh.
Okay, sure, let's go. Like playing live, and I'm comped. Okay, yeah. And so I went there this August, and the whole time, and all my friends on VRChat were like curious about it. Like, am I gonna be a wreck about performing live? Because like when I perform on VR, don't talk to me. If you see me before I perform, do not go talk to me like 30 minutes before because I'm so anxious. I am very snappy. I'm sorry to anyone who's worked around me at that time. So I was wondering if I was going to be the same in real life. Well, guess what? No, it was just so natural because I knew my songs so well from performing every single week on VRChat that I had no anxiety relating to that. And all my anxieties were about crashing in the middle of my performance, which cannot happen in real life.
So in a sense, your VRChat performances prepared you for the real life ones, from the sounds of it.
Absolutely. And honestly, if you want to perform, you have either a VR setup or just desktop. I started in desktop. I was performing at Coachella in desktop. Like, hey, just go and play and like find a good public instance that lets you do that, that doesn't have too many troubles, and just play. A lot of people love hearing your music. They're tired of like people just like blasting their music through their microphones, like, you know, their Spotify or whatever. When you actually play something yourself, people like that and they'll go and listen to you. You can also go to open mics and everything, but that won't teach you a set. If you're like me and you can write a song in 5 minutes and you have like, God, how many songs do I have by now? Probably close to 40. Anyway, if you have a lot of songs you need to play, it's such a great way to practice your set. I have a concert on Friday this week, so I am going to be on VRChat performing the set to make sure I have it down for that.
So I have a bit of a dual-layered question for you as well. I'll start with this. What were the differences between performing in VR and performing in real life, and what were you anticipating for both when you started your first live performance and your first VRChat performance? What were you expecting them both to be like at the time?
Oh, that's very interesting. For VR, I had very little expectations because I didn't know what a VRChat performance was. Mind you, when I met Corbell at Ferrari Silva, VR at the time for me was something I made money off of. Not many people know that. I guess that's a tie-in with Bert Satan's interview a little bit, but I got into VR because I am a sound engineer who has worked on adult films shot on some VR games not related to this one. Anyway, and having worked in that, I knew about how VR works and everything. And using the money from that, I bought myself a ticket to Virality because I could afford it. So I knew about some very specific use cases of full body tracking. I didn't know much about what VRChat was about. And so I go there, and when I was told, would you like to go play a concert? I was like, oh, it's just going to be like in a room with 3 people around me. And that's so cool. I'm so down. People are gonna listen to me, and I was so stoked about the idea of even like one person listening to me. It's just no longer just me in my bedroom writing songs for myself. It's people listening to my music, and my music gets to live on to other people, and that was so exciting. And so I was like, yeah, hell yeah. And I go to play at fucking Coachella, which at the time already had like the whole like streaming system that they have that is very similar to that of Virality. And so like I start like in some of the most technically advanced live shows that are on VRChat, and I see a crowd in front of me, and I'm like, wow, okay. And for in person, I was like, I don't know. I went there. I was like, I kind of want to have a bunch of people in their crowd. And what I was really excited for was to get people singing, because that's what you can't do in VRChat. I mean, I get people singing in VRChat, but I'll be like, okay, everyone, let's go. Trans rights are human rights, and then you can start hearing like trans, and like in the in the audience because everyone has different delays, and it's cool and you get used to it. And also playing in VRChat, it really helps you like being able to play without minding it because you get so much like auditory and visual distractions that would never happen in real life. So it's great. And so when I performed there, and I was like, I started singing some songs. And it feels like I'm like, wow, it's weird. Like, did the engineer put like weird chorus effect on me? And no, people are starting to sing my choruses with me. I was like, what? And I get to test a song where there's a trans rights section, and I tell people, okay, so for this song, I want you to sing this, and people start like singing along, and I was like, oh my God, that was so good. That was so good, and I love that. So yeah, I don't usually have high expectations for anything. I go there, I play. The people want me to play, I play, and it's just about having fun in the end.
Okay. So how different were the two experiences from playing at Coachella and Virality versus playing in real life on the stage? Were there any differences between the two?
Oh, I didn't play at Virality. I just played at Coachella.
Coachella, sorry.
It's just that they have a similar system to Virality. I did go on stage at Virality for Bert Sagan's performance at the time in the Otter Avatar. The differences between the two, the prep for VRChat, gotta make sure everything is plugged in. If I'll be performing, I have my mic props. I need to make sure it matches where my mic actually is. I also have to do my own miking for my performance. Usually have that pretty much pre-set up, but it's still like a little bit of setup. I have a bunch of things to do, really. I'm responsible for my internet, for my tech, for my sound, for my stream. I'm responsible for a lot of things, and it is a lot of stress. In real life, I need to get there. Like, for instance, going to Hanover, that was like an 14-hour long train trip. So I wrote, I think 14 pages worth of poems on the way there. But once I was there, it was great. And on the day of, I just like showed up with my guitar, just like warmed up, met the sound tech, was like, yeah, I'd like that. Okay, good. Went to the lighting engineer, please no strobes, thank you, and just have fun. And then did my sound check, and it was already time to play.
Okay. So what about those first time experiences made you want to do more of them? As you mentioned at the beginning, you're doing them multiple times a week. What inspired you to keep on going from those experiences?
The people. First of all, performing for people, that was great, but like after performing, if you've never been on a stage, I recommend you try it. Because you'll be terrified about going on the stage. You go on there, and all of a sudden, it feels like there's like wings growing on you, and the time passes in a snap. You're like, what is that? Like it's gone, and that's because you get shot with so much adrenaline from performing. After performing, you're on a cloud and you want to talk to everyone, and it's great because you need to as a musician to get yourself known. And so I just loved going in the crowd and talking to people and like hearing about what people felt. And I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. And then um, I was invited to open for TFM Johnny for one of his charity events that he did for Trans Academy. And I was like, yeah, amazing, let's go. And when I opened for that, I only played a few songs. But I remember people were very emotional in the crowd. And I was like, whoa, I can do that in VR? And then they invited me to play at some of their weekly events called Moonlight Academy. And I went there and I played Born Again. And I got people like crying. And I was like, really? But whoa, that's really what I can do with my music? Like, I guess there's a lot more power. And like, people started telling me, like, we love your music and we love hearing it. And what you sing about is something we need to hear or something that relates to this. And I just loved going and hearing how people related to my writing and my music. And it's incredible because it's all what I've always wanted as a musician is for my music to live on in the hearts and the minds of others. And I'm achieving that, and I love it.
Wow. So how many songs do you play or do you have in your discography, and what were the inspirations behind them?
So discography, I don't have them all recorded. So discography probably 20, 25. Written that I can play and I do play closer to 35 probably. I have never counted them actually. I just keep writing them. I wrote one like yesterday. So I don't know. I write them pretty fast, and if you ask other musicians, they'll probably tell you that I write very fast. It's something that I never knew I wrote this fast before I was on VR, and then people started telling me like, "No, you write really fast. That's wow." So yeah, I guess that's my strength. What was the question again? Sorry.
And what were some of the inspirations behind them? The music you have.
Oh, so that's very interesting because a big part of my music is about the texts. Poetry-wise, I had never written English poetry. I never read much English poetry before, like, I want to say a month ago, when I did have the opportunity to buy English poetry. All my exposure with English poetry was like here and there, and I never really sought it out on the internet for some reason. So I went and wrote English poetry, but with the background of what I had studied in French poetry in high school, which made my early poetry a bit awkward. And so poetry-wise, I didn't have a lot of influences, but here and there I would like stumble upon like the lyrics and the poems of like Patti Smith, and I would be like, wow, that's really cool. I like that. I would stumble. One day, I went to watch, Blade Runner 2049. Okay film. But there's this like scene. There's like this bass line that the protagonist repeats. The within cells interlinked, within cells interlinked within one stem, and dreadfully distinct against the dark, a tall white fountain plain. That's actually from a book by Vladimir Nabokov called Pale Fire, and most of the book is a 999 word poem, and about a near-death experience. And so I went and looked at this one as well. And I always very much admired the use of like rejection in it, and I guess that influenced my poetry. But it's not, I would say, the thing where I'm the most influenced. Where I looked for influences was for my voice. Again, I am a trans woman, and if you don't know, HRT does not affect your voice when you're doing MTF transition. FGM absolutely it does, but MTF no. And so we have to constantly modulate our voice for them to sound more feminine. Now I can get very feminine if I'd like to. But right now it's about like 10 p.m. and I'm very tired. But you know, that would be more my normal speaking voice. But for singing, it's harder because there's a lot of resources about feminizing your talking voice. But singing, that's different. Now, the approach that most trans people will have is what I call the trans crooning, which is something along the lines of like, you know, I don't know if I wanted to sing. I guess think about Billie Eilish. It kind of works if you work to try and sing Billie Eilish, like I used to want like this like head voice with a lot of air, and if you use plenty of reverb, it's gonna sound very feminine. But I always liked doing power vocals, and I'm also someone who plays extremely loud on the guitar, so crooning was not really natural for me. And so I looked for ways of doing power vocals that sound feminine. Because if I were to do them normally, you know, if I want to say sing, you know, like the chorus to "Color Me Shy," and I go like normally it would go like "Color my body." That's the way I would normally sing it. But like, if I were to do real power vocals, it would probably be something more along the lines of like "Color my body." But like that sounds extremely masculine, right? Sorry for the clipping.
It's all good.
And so I looked into like, okay, who do I know that sings pretty rough, that is not a very well trained singer, who has a female voice and does power vocals. And I guess my mom kept playing it in the car or something, but one of her favorite songs is Because the Night by Patti Smith, right? And I was like, and Patti Smith is known for doing those like take me now, baby, here as I am. Like, you know, those like very trilly power. It's loud, but you basically make it so you're you like jitter your diaphragm every time like it gets like you compress and then you release. And that's how you do it. And I'm like, wow, that's a way of doing like low power vocals that sound feminine. Because the other person I know who does something this similar is Dolores O'Riordan from the Cranberries, you know, like I said before. Cardell, time will tell, they say that you has to, yeah, yeah. Like, and I can be very, very like, low still in my singing voice, but still make it sound pretty feminine. And if I just mix that with normal singing while feminizing my voice, you know, and I go like, in the morning, on a canvas of skin, I paint myself to life. It's my hair now that I comb. You know, like I can basically modulate in dynamics while still retaining my feminine sound. So yeah, definitely Dolores O'Riordan and Patti Smith for singing. For guitar, I just play cowboy chords with a pick, so I hate to say that, but I guess Bob Dylan.
Okay. Wow, I had no idea. I had no idea there was that much work that would go into trying to play a certain way. How much training did it take you to finally get to where you wanted?
It took me a little time. At first, when I was first performing, you know, in VR, didn't have it fully down. It just came naturally, and the way I see it, and it's the same for my songs, by the way. Sometimes I'll be adding a new song I don't know fully well into my set list for an event, and sometimes I mess up. But like, I'd like to push myself into new things and try new things. Or I'll be playing a song I played for a while. You know, I used to sing like Goodnight Minstrel M, Goodbye Minstrel M. I used to sing that song, you know, very flat, you know, like uh, uh let me oh, it's very hard to get into the song in the middle of it, huh?
It's okay.
Yeah, but I used to sing it in a certain way, and then one day I was like, oh, maybe I can do something different here, and I tried it in the middle of performing, and I was like, I like that, and then I kept performing it that way. Just see it as an improvement. You don't have to be perfect when you're performing live because people want to see you being imperfect in front of them because that's what they want. If they wanted you to sound larger than life and super perfect, they would listen to a studio version of it.
Hmm. Something else I've noticed from a lot of different types of performers here in VRChat is a lot of the time, the problems you see in your own performance, the audience will never notice. As well.
Oh yeah, no, never. No. Because it's funny, but it's something you learn as a sound engineer. You don't have that good of a ear memory as you think, even if you have a very good one. For instance, you can't compare two things that are apart by more than 5 seconds. So like if you do like a sound test of two different things, and like someone's like, yeah, so here's my new guitar, and like plays the guitar, talks for like 10 seconds, then plays another bit, like, oh, this one sounds better. You have no idea. You wouldn't be able to know because there's like too much time and your brain doesn't even remember. It's very similar for performing. When you're performing, you're just gonna listen. People are just gonna listen to it once in the moment, and it's just a lot more than the music. It's the atmosphere, who they are with, how you as a performer you are moving, or what you are making them do. Like when people go to my concerts, at the end when I sing like Cherry Shrimp God, they get to turn, like in VR, they get to turn to shrimps and like turn around me, and they get to hear me play the kazoo, that sort of stuff. It's just different, and don't be afraid of fucking up because you will, but it's cool. And when you fuck up, make sure you make it a cool event. I fucked up in Germany. I was like, oh, I'm gonna sing this song, and in the middle, I forgot half of the verses. I'm like, well, that happens. Anyway, here's my next song, and you just roll with it. It's fine.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you a bit of a question. Is gonna a bit of a detour, so I do apologize. But what got you into
No, go
sound
ahead.
engineering, and how much of it do you use today with your performances?
Oh, how I got into sound engineering. Music. I started. I was studying mechanical engineering in university, and at the time I was already messing and recording my own music a little bit. I was recording stuff in my dorm room. At the time using FL Studio, a very bad interface and a crappy amp, and it was horrible. I don't even know how I managed to make music with the stuff I had, but I managed to do it. So I was, a bit curious, and I did take an extracurricular in electroacoustic music for a semester, and it was great. But that was about it. Like, didn't study the sound engineering. Come the second semester, I have to retake it a second time. I'm like, I don't like this. I don't like what this job implies. I don't want to be 65 one day, retired with an Audi car in a cool little suburban house full of stuff I've bought over the years and never used. And looking back and being like, what the fuck did I do about my music? I loved music. I looked at my guitar and I was like, all I do every night when I come here is talk to my friends and play music and write songs. I don't open my books and learn about O-rings. Why am I studying mechanical engineering? And so I'm like, fuck it, I'll drop out. And so I dropped out of uni to pursue music. Needless to say, my parents were delighted. Anyway, so I met some friends who were musicians from other friends, and I was the musician friend who knew the most about technical stuff because I already knew about recording. So I ended up being the musician friend who packs up the cables and the musician friend who knows how to use a mixer, and a musician friend who knows how to mix a little, and and on and on and on. I met people, I did more, and it's just the more you do, the more you learn, and now I'm a sound engineer and mixing, mastering engineer. I also do some audio editing, but it's not the thing that makes me I don't. That's not what I'd like to do most. And right now, I'm pretty fortunate to have some good production gigs and music mixing gigs. So that's pretty nice. Step by step, you get there and you learn things. Don't be afraid to realize you were wrong about something. Very important for any skill, but very much for audio engineering. And remember, use your ears, and it's all about if it sounds good or not.
Okay. That's quite impressive that you went from I hate this to using it frequently. Do you use it today? Like any of that knowledge with what you're doing here for that you've learned in sound engineering?
Oh no, I hated mechanical engineering.
Oh, my bad. I
Sound
apologize.
engineering I always liked. No, not a.
I apologize.
But yeah, no, don't worry. No, it's understandable because I mean, there's engineering, both of them. And I will say mechanical engineering, I did study, there are like similarities with sound engineering, you do work a lot with waves. So it's very useful to know what a low pass filter actually is and be able also to represent sound as a wave and understand how different plugins you do affect your sound mathematically. Do you need it to be a good sound engineer? Absolutely not, but it's still very nice to know, and it's very useful, and it will save you a lot of blunders.
Okay. It must also mostly be very useful for going for all of those engineering things to use with your day-to-day life instead of having to like hire someone to do your mixing and mastering. You can just pop off and do it yourself.
Yes, that was a big part of also why I learned it. I'm broke. Not as much today. I used to be incredibly broke. Like can't eat broke. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll ask you this other question as well. What have been some of your favorite performances you've done or moments you've played music for people, and why?
Okay, so I could give you the stupid answer of like every single one. But that's not very interesting. Um, that's a good question. So I did one last month actually. It was a special event uh for TVRS. It was not related to the actual TVRS show, but it was like a TVRS event for the Discord community of TVRS. And I played in Tanuki tunes, and it was just a really cool, chill show. Everyone was around. For once, I had no technical issues whatsoever, and I just played on, and I had no time limit, so I just played on and on and on until I was like, okay, well, we're good. And because for me, when people give me an hour, they're like, "Are you sure you're gonna be able to do an hour?" I'm like, "Yes, yes, I've been doing an hour for like a long time now." I've done 2 hour shows of all originals for The Strange Bear. I can do a lot. Please give me long sets, please. So when they even told me like, oh no, there's no time limit, just have fun. I was like, yes, that's what I like to hear. I don't have to worry about that. That's one less worry. And my friends were there. People showed up. It was great. I loved that. That show was amazing. Of course, the Germany one, like I mean, Bugs, like I met my girlfriend in Germany and I kissed her on stage that day on stream. Um and it was amazing. I can't even describe how good this Germany time was because like being surrounded with all these amazing furry musicians. Um, it was like such a like concentrated creativity and music. It was great. It was just great. Then I'm trying to think of at least another one on VRChat I really liked. One where I didn't play actually, where I went on for one song to mime virality this year. When I went on to mime my guitar part that I recorded for Bird Satan.
Oh.
I cried. Yes, Bird is a very good friend of mine, and him being like, "No, I want you on stage, and I want you to do this." It just hit me in the feelings, and I just cried so much. But it was so good, and I loved it. And I was like, I want to play Virality next year. And then I changed my avatar to this, and now I'm like, well, I'm still a furry, but I don't have a fursona. What the fuck do I do? Do I get to go on Virality?
Oh, so let's go into the Bird Satan one since you said it had the most emotional impact. What about it made you hit you in the feels like that, may I ask?
Well, first of all, I'm a trans woman on HRT, which makes everything a lot stronger. And you cry a lot when you're a trans woman on HRT. But God, it's very complex. Like it's just I met Bird like I think on the second show I performed in VRChat. It was a CMFS show as well. I think it was, it was not New Year's. Oh, I am unsure now. And I heard Bird's music and I was like, whoa, that's really impressive. I really wish I could play like that. And it just reminded me of what I used to listen to and want to do when I was in university. And I was like, that is so incredible. And then I started talking to Bird and we just like clicked, just kept talking and talking. And before I had my girlfriend and actually had had to get to sleep early and stuff, I would just like stay very late on VRChat. And usually the on my friends list, one of the people who just stays late is Bird. And so we'd just be talking on and on and on and on until the sun rises for me and about everything and about creation, about music, about a lot of things. And so when at one point Bird was like, "Can you play the 12-string guitar on one of my tracks for my new album?" And I was like so stoked because like, holy shit, new Bird Satan album? And I get to play on it? I was like, yeah, absolutely. And so I played like some 12-string that you can hear on the song Crossroads, that's just before Arizona on the album Terminal, which is the second to last song. It's kind of faint, but you can hear it very much in the high end, and it's there reinforcing the mids, so it's not very distinct. That's on purpose. And so it's still a very background thing. So, I'm not a lead. Like on Arizona, there's Alex Gray and Solinus. They're like playing and singing in the background, and so they got invited to be on stage. But Bird was like, no, come, I want you to play for Crossroads. It's like, oh, that's so cool. And I really got stoked about it and was like, I'll make my avatar like fit the theme. And actually, like let me change into the otter. Technically, lore-wise, the otter is dead, but well, it's not dead. We'll see. There's something planned for the otter. People miss the otter a lot, but she's coming back. Where is she? He drowned. There we go. Let's see if it still works. There we go. So that was the avatar I had for that show. So you can see it drowned at the bottom of the lake, I guess. And let's see, where did I put it again? Toggles, guitar. We're back. Yeah. And so I was on the stage really and just like going like miming my thing, and I don't know, it was just very fun. I tried to spook people out before, and I just had a lot of fun. Yeah, and
Ooh.
it was my it was a I don't know how to say. It was just afterwards. It was just so much emotions. I just like cried.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask you another question as well. Within the songs you have written and performed, what is one of your favorites from that, and what is your audience's favorite?
Oh, okay. Audience favorite, according to Spotify, stats is Born Again
Hmm.
by far. Born Again is a song I wrote um in two. It's one of those rare songs I didn't write in one go. I wrote it in like two sections. The first part I wrote very early in my transition, like still like HRT had still didn't have HRT even at the time. Like it was like honest trans, but didn't have HRT. I was starting to kind of work on my voice, but like I was trying to dress feminine anyway. But thing is that you try and dress like a cute girl, but your body is still not agreeing with you and everything. And so you go out, you get misgendered, you look at yourself in the mirror, you hate yourself. It's very hard early transition. And if you're going through it, don't worry, it's gonna get better soon. Hang in there. You're beautiful, you're loved, you're valid. But I wrote that song, to get it off my chest. And it's like the first part is very sad, and I wrote the chorus, I'm just a girl in casual wear in the body of a man. I hate my guts, and how's it fair? I wish I could be born again. Time goes, I go to see my voice coach, and I get HRT and everything, and so I'm early HRT, but like feeling so euphoric because like now I feel woman. I start to have very slight, boob growth, but at the time was ecstatic about it. And change that don't people talk a lot about. I smelled the girl. There's a little difference in smell. You can definitely tell when you're a trans girl. You can definitely tell the boy smell afterwards. I was like, wow, it's so cool. And I would go with more confidence. Now I would still not totally pass and everything, but I didn't fucking care. I didn't fucking care at the time. So I heard this thing about like people on the street like looking me down, and but like just I don't care, I have HRT and fuck y'all, whatever you think. And so I wrote the second chorus as like, I'm just a girl in casual wear in the body of a man. You hate my guts. Well, I don't care. I feel like I've been born again. And like I think people really connect with that, and it's definitely one of my audience's favorite. I would say especially on the trans on the trans side, because I have like a very mixed audience, but definitely a very very popular with trans people. Um, then there's Cherry Shrimp God that everyone loves at my shows and waits eagerly for, which is a song I wrote when I was in bed one night and was awoken and got a little bit of a hypnopompic hallucination, which is when you wake up, you're still kind of dreaming, so you see something. And I saw a cherry shrimp about yay big. If you don't know what a cherry shrimp is, but up custom emojis, that's a cherry shrimp.
Oh.
Yeah, freshwater red shrimp. And I was like, "Wow, that's scary!" And I screamed, and I went back to sleep. Next day, I go on Discord, on my fans Discord, and I typed, "Wow, I dreamt about that. Isn't this how colds start?" And people were like, "Yeah, it is." And I was like, "Oh." And that day, I went to the cafe, which was where I usually write my songs. And I wrote two songs, and one of them was "Cherish Him God," which is a song about that starts by, "I had a vision the other night. They appeared by my bedside, red invertebrates so clear in my sight. There was a wisdom floating like the tide." And so I'm it's like this like the story about like this singer who is me who goes a bit crazy and starts a cult about a cherry shrimp god, and like I came up with like you know, things that cherry shrimp god would say. So it's kill all rutabaga, milk the big pens. It doesn't mean anything, but it's very fun to see people coming up with their meaning for it. And like in VRChat, what started happening is people like changed into like cherry shrimp avatar, and now whenever I play, there's like a sea of shrimps dancing around and everything. It's really great. And the thing I added after a while, someone gifted me a kazoo, and I was like, this is the perfect song for the kazoo. So now, like at the end, I just take out the kazoo and it just like people love that song. It's very high energy. And in real life, I wanted it to be crazy as well. So for my performance, I bought a bunch of big pens, and I had plants in the audience act completely brainwashed and just give out big pens like that, being like, kill all rutabaga, milk the big pens, confusing everyone. And I tried to have people just do a circle pit with the big pens. It was pretty fun.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. It is very fun. Yeah, I would say that's a big audience favorite.
Now, what about yours? What would be your favorite?
Ah, the question.
The question.
Xenia.
Mm.
It's a song I wrote about a ThinkPad laptop that falls in love with the rejected furry Linux mascot Xenia, who is canonically a trans woman. And through a lot of very geeky, nerdy Linux jokes, basically makes the ThinkPad realize that they're trans, and it's this like song I wrote about like coming to realizing trans. Now, why do I think it's interesting? I wrote that song before I was out as trans. I wrote that song while I was still an egg, and I was like, but I'm not trans though, right? Bitch, you've been trans for years. Just come the fuck out already. Anyway, and I wrote that song, and it's just it's wild when I tell people that I wasn't at the time. They're like, "Wait, for real?" It's just so it's just so real. It's one of my favorites. It's very fun. It's short. It's funny. I like it. I like it a lot.
Okay.
And also, it's the song that now traditionally, every time I play it at the end, my girlfriend gets on stage and I kiss her because I did it for the first time in Germany, and now every time I perform it, she gets kissed.
Aw, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, so the audience favorites, I'll ask. Did you expect those to be a favorite at all, or is that something you just kind of were surprised by?
Born Again, I wrote before I was even performing VRChat. Never even wrote it with any audience in mind. It was written for myself, like a lot of my songs actually. So no, and I never write a song like thinking, oh, the audience will love that. I write a song because I have fun writing that song, or because it helps me unpack some thoughts I have, or because sometimes I'll have an itch. I'll like, I need to write about this, or there'll be like a sentence or like a few words. I'm like, I need to write something about that. And sometimes there's someone I have thoughts about, or something I have thoughts about, and I know where physically I will find the inspiration. It's very strange. It's happened to me several times. I was like, I know where I'm gonna write the song about you. I need to go there.
Okay.
And it's always worked. But I never expected any of them to be audience favorites. I just know sometimes when I write the chords, I'm like, okay, that's like a very cliche, like, chord progression, so it's likely to get stuck in your head. That's all there is about it.
Okay. So a little bit of a divert as well. What have been some advice you've got for
Go ahead.
people once you've entered the VR chat scene with music? Did you have any mentors or any who said something that has stuck with you that helped you?
I was kind of I mean I kind of figure things out by myself a lot.
Hmm.
Like I was just incredibly lucky to meet Corbell that day, and after that, now if I want to get booked, it's not that hard because I have all the contacts. I It's not about mentors, it's more about talking to other musicians, but that is true of real life as well. If you're a musician, do not close yourself up to other musicians for no reason. Like I've made that mistake when I was younger, you know. I was like hard rock and metal is the only true music. There's no other true music, blah blah blah. If you like music, you like all music, first of all. If you work in music, you should get excited for hearing music. I think it's very important. But it's very important to listen to other musicians work in your scene, listen to what they do, get excited about it, and just listen, like have fun with it, and go talk to them, and because you will always learn something from another musician as a musician,
Hmm.
and they will probably learn stuff from you, and also even if it's not about music that you're gonna learn stuff, you are all evolving within the same scene. Now, for VRChat, obviously, like it's not relevant, but like outside of VRChat, that's how, for instance, you know if you got paid or ripped off by whatever venue or something, right?
Hmm.
Um, but for VRChat, that's how you know who to contact, who to get in contact with, etc. Like a friend of yours like played a stage you like, you're like, hey, how did you find out about that? Oh, just get in contact with this person. Here's their Discord.
Hmm.
Talk to your fellow musicians. They're on your side. No one is here to sabotage someone else. There's no such thing. We're all sharing the same audience, and it's fine. You all have your audience that you will grow yourself. This is about building each other up. It will always be about building each other up. So talk to your fellow musicians. And yeah, get to know who's in charge or who runs events and stuff. The great thing about VRChat is that it's in the name VRChat. And once you're done performing, go into the audience, talk to people. Be careful, don't get dragged down into long conversations. I think it's very important. It's very important and fine when you're a performer and everyone wants your attention after a show. If you're talking to a fan, it's going to be long. Like, hey, sorry, I'm sorry. I need to talk to other people right now. I'd love to continue this conversation some other time or something. Like, be nice and cordial about it. But make sure you talk to all as much people as you can. Just walk around. People will like, hey, oh, I saw your show. Oh, blah blah. Actually, you have like a proposal for you. Like, yeah, that's my advice, I guess.
Hmm. That's a pretty good advice. At least from like with what I do, a similar thing. Talk with everybody within most scenes is a very good advice, no matter what you're doing, musicians or otherwise, especially in VR and even in real life as well. I've found so many people I was able to meet and get to know through that very bit of advice myself. It's really good advice.
Yeah, I mean, how did I mean, I saw some of your podcasts on Twitter. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I wonder like if I could get on that. I think I sent a comment on one of them, and then my friend Glitch was like, "Here's where you need to go. Here's the invite to the Discord. Post there. There you go.
Glitch is
You
a
meet people
sweetheart.
who will help you." Glitch is an absolute sweetheart, but you'll find so many sweethearts in this community
Mm.
because we are a tiny, fragile ecosystem of events and musicians on VRChat, and we're like this, you know. We're very, very strongly adhered, and it's good. And we stick out our necks for each other, and until this grows into something bigger, it's important that we have each other's backs, I guess, and
Mm.
we facilitate communication between each other.
Mm. Well, in terms of like the performance scene, I think some pretty good uh forward forward seeing for the performance scene is like looking over at the VR chat rave scene, how that exploded over COVID, you should probably expect a similar growth and patterns that happened over there. Everyone wants to make their own club venues. There's huge amounts of options, so you may not see people stick around long stuff like those kinds of things you'd probably easily see in the music performance, like with what Corbell does. These that'd be what
Yeah.
I would say anyway, as it grows.
That's actually a good point there, because there is this thing with performance and rave. They're very distinct.
Hmm.
We're trying to bridge them together, and I've seen that happen more and more. For instance, before going to Germany, I was invited to perform at Hex Furry Fest, which is a rave event. But Whispers had convinced the owner of the event to give performers a try. So I went there, and at first they wanted it to be pre-recorded, so I gave them a pre-recording and everything. And on the day of, I was ready to mime, and the stream went down. And I was like, if you want, it takes me 30 seconds. I have my mic already set up. I can play live over the microphone. They're like, oh, I don't know. I'll actually do it. And so I started playing live over the microphone. And then the video went back on. I'm like, oh, okay, went back on. I'll stop. They're like, no, keep going. Okay. I said I did my whole set live. And they were like, actually, live performances are really cool. Maybe we'll look into that more in the future. And I was like, great. And I really, if you have a rave event or like more DJ oriented event, try and have some performers, maybe as openers to your shows when like people are not as into the mood of like hard party or whatever. Just try and like reach out to some performers. Like, it's cool. And another word of advice to furry musicians, well, musicians in general, who do not do DJ or EDM. Share your stems. Share your stems with DJs. It's the same in real life, but like most of the people on VRChat go to listen to music in the clubbing scene. Get people to remix your music, because that's how they'll hear about it. That's more ears to your music. If you produce your own music, if you do studio versions, try and make them a little bouncy and dancey, right? That's what I do for mine. When I sing live, it's just like me and my guitar, But when I produce it, it's more pop rock with like pretty steady kick or whatever. Because I recognize that people like that steadiness and that bounciness and kind of want to move, and that's fine. Especially in the VR scene, because the bulk of the music scene in the VR scene is the rave scene. And it's important as a musician to recognize that and use it to your advantage.
Wow. I personally haven't talked to a lot of performers, but of the ones we have talked to, you're some of the first who've kind of given that kind of advice. Was that something you picked up naturally, may I ask? That kind of intuition. Oh, I'm here to interrupt your current video, ask you a favor. Down in the description, down that way, is a link, metaversedegen.card.co, which you have a whole bunch of other places. If you wish to continue following us, we have Twitter, which I run for us, which you get updates and other stuff and random thoughts from me. We have a Discord where Raptor, I, and the entire crew and all the other people we know will be over there hanging out. We game there fairly regularly or hang out in there, so feel free to go over that way and come chat with us. We'd love to meet you. We have a Spotify now, surprise. Everything from a couple weeks ago forward, we'll have our Spotify content on Fridays. If I remember, we'll put some of our old content forward, but we're going to keep up with our current content on Spotify. So if you wish to watch it there or listen to it there, it'll be there for you as well. Also, we have a Patreon, which we have a whole other show, which we haven't been keeping up with, but we're doing our best. But we have a whole other show there for you as well. We would like to give a huge thanks to some of our supporters over that way, which is Future Oracle, Aliquum, Niche, and Forbidden Zero, all of which we thank you very much for everything, and hopefully we'll see you around and you continue to enjoy the content. Enjoy the current video. Oh boy.
I'm a sound engineer.
Fair.
It's what I do. It's what I do. No, it's what I do. Like when I mix, like it depends on what it is. Like I'm not gonna make like a really bouncy project or whatever. I'm not gonna do a very bouncy mix for like a jazz mix. That would not make sense. But for pop rock or whatever, I tend to be like, hey, like, listen, the the tendency nowadays is to have something that's more like people like something that's a little dancey or whatever. Like your song could maybe benefit to being a little more bouncy, less just like, like 70s style mixing, more like, a bit more modern. Or like, oh, now it's like kind of like all the rage of having stuff that's like a little, you have like a bunch of stuff going left and right and whatever, because like hyperpop is big. So you can take those elements and bring them into your production. Again, listening to what's good and trying to adapt my music to what people want to hear in uh, the artist's scene is kind of what I do as a job. So I guess I picked up on that. And yes, but please give out your stems. If you have stems, if you have music done, record it, pack them up. Make your stems even quickly. Like put them on a Google Drive or something, and just like blast all the DJs you know on the scene. Then whatever. Hey, here's my stems. Make stuff with my music, because a lot of DJs love like VR performers, and they would probably love to showcase more music from the VR music scene. So, hey, another way to just work together.
Wow. I love one of the things I've found to love about VRChat, especially because I haven't experienced the performance scene either DJs or through singers like yourselves. I had no idea this thing existed. But once I started learning from everyone such as yourself, the community is very tight knit to begin with. I was very surprised at how large yet small everything seems.
Yes, large yet small is a very, very good analogy for the music scene on VRChat. Large because there are a lot of musicians on VRChat. A lot more than you'd think. I mean, ask Corbell about it. Ask Corbell how many DMs he currently has to go through and are unread. Ask how many musicians he has on his list. So much that he can't showcase them all, that he has to put people on like cooldown for like shows because he wants to showcase more new talent. And that's great. So that's large in this sense. Small in the sense that we are not yet able to fully make it worth their time to the artists. If you are a VR musician, you can't live off of VR music. You can't grow your audience much out of VR music. It's something I've come to realize at one point. I started to hit a plateau of like how much influx of people I had on my music, and I realized I need to start doing content creation. All the big names in VR music, with maybe a few exceptions, are content creators also, and that brings attention to their music. We are not at the point where and it's very hard because of VRChat TOS. You can't be like, hey, so we'll charge like $5 entry or whatever and redistribute. And we're not at the point where it's like profitable enough already for the organizers in most cases, because they all work off of donations. And so we're not at the point where like we can sustain the music scene and keep musicians within the music scene of VRChat. We either have to branch out as musicians to real life performances, or to content creation, or both. But however, it's a great way to get off. Like, it's a great way to just start, and it's a springboard, really. Like, it's you start, you don't know how to perform, you learn to perform on VRChat. It's just like people who learn how to be social on VRChat. It's a similar thing. Performing is a social experience. And when I performed in Hanover, was technically my first live performance, if you don't count that time I sang Sultans of Swing when I was 16. And when I was finished, the sound tech came up to me and was like, wait, that was really your first performance? I was like, yeah, that was really good. I was like, thank you, but I guess I have experience on VR. It's just like when you tell people, yeah, I have friends on the internet, like, they're not real friends. You're like, yeah, they are. I lost a friend on the internet and I cried for days. I think she was a real friend, right?
Mm.
And it's the same for VR. I perform on VR every day. I stress about it. I care about what people think about my performances. How is that different from a real performance? I can tell you, it's not that different. It's just that in real life, people can sing in time with you, and yeah, it's just different mediums, but it's still very much the same skills that apply.
Mm. One of the things I've also got for VR as a performing space from a lot of the conversations we've had is VR is a really great tool to refine your skill set, especially since the amount of venues you can play at, the amount of opportunities you can have, you can't really make a living off of, but you can get better at it, whatever it is you want to do. 3D modeling, coding, performing, DJing, running organizations, you name it. You can have so many opportunities here. It's almost as good as any college course. Because instead of having a teacher talk at you, you are figure it out on yourself on the fly when you do them. At least that's what I get from the scene anyway.
It is a lot of experience you can gain. And the peculiarity of it and the way I've described it, because I'm very transparent in real life about what I do. I was very transparent when I used to work in VR porn. I would tell people I make my money off of VR porn, and they were like, "Whoa, what the fuck is that? That sounds so cool." And I would explain to them like, "Yeah, it's the future." I wouldn't say that, but I would be like, "I warn you, it's kind of Black Mirror in a way. It's kind of weird, but it's fun." And for music, I tell them, imagine you could go and play in the street right now, and you could play any time of day or night, and there would always be at least 10 people listening to you. And on top of that, nothing bad can happen to you. If someone bothers you, you can block them. And you can do that at any time of the day or month. You can do that in your PJs from the comfort of your home. Wouldn't that be fucking amazing to practice?
Mm.
You can have an audience anytime, and you can have an audience from everywhere in the world. You're like, I wish I could grow my audience in Japan. Well, you just go on like Japan Street, for instance, or any Japanese big public instance around, around like 9, 10 p.m. their time. And you'll have a crowd, and people will listen to you, and you're growing your Japanese audience. You want to grow your European audience? Well, just look for like a European instance or just like a public instance in general of like, I guess the black cat, but please go for the queer cat at least. Or like a furry hideout is a really good place to play, by the way.
Mm.
Trans Academy, I guess, as well, but they have TOS that you need to make sure you observe. Just you can just like play for European crowds, you can play for American crowds, and that's the thing that I have trouble with when I try and play IRL here. No one locally knows me. Very few people in France know me, and they're far away from where I live. So to actually convince a venue to book me is a little hard because they're like, oh, okay, so what crowd can you pull locally? And I'm like, so I can't. It's very strange, but it's such good experience. And again, it's a great school of anything VRChat, Just do whatever you wanted to, do it here and see how people react and tune it depending on how people react. And the more you do something, the better you get at it. And also, the more you are willing to learn about your mistakes, learn from your mistakes, the quicker you learn.
Mm. So you said something there that kind of interested me. When you go to talk to real life venues, you said what kind of crowd can you pull locally? Is that something that matters to a lot of the venues that you would book yourself for in real life? Is that a common question you get?
Oh yeah, because the point of a venue is to make money.
Mm.
If you're like, "Ah, yeah, I'd like to play this venue," and you're like, okay, what crowd can you pull? Because like, if they're gonna give you a door cut, just so they can also, pay the tech and whoever is doing the tickets and or make sure they sell enough rings or whatever model they have, they need to get people through the door. Venues to get money, you need to get people through the door. Then the way you're paid depends on the venue. Like venues will either give you a door cut or they'll give you just like an average, like you just say, oh, give me that much. Or different venues work differently. And it's, I'm sure, very different in the US as well. But if you can't guarantee that you can get people through the door, then you're going to get into the very sticky situation of like, well, we can rent you the venue for that much. And you get into the bad situation of you pay to play, which you should never do as a musician. Never pay to play. That is no. Ideally, you want to be paid to play. That can be very hard at first. But I feel like in real life, you don't want to say yes to an unpaid gig. In VR, it's different because there's no real way to pay you on most of the times. Most of the times. I have gotten paid gigs, several, and they're great, and I love when they happen. Um, but in real life, again, unlike most events in VR, there are costs related to running the event that can be pretty high. You got a bunch of staff. You've got, they have to pay for like the rent of the venue or the upkeep, and it's a lot of stuff that they have to pay for over either the day or the year. And so you as a musician also, they will look for you if you are either guaranteed to please their usual audience that goes there, or if you are well known enough that you will pull your own audience with you. And so usually the way I go for it myself, and now I've learned, I'll say, hey, so I'm a trans woman singing about my life as a trans woman. It's a very simple gig. It's as in like, it's not expensive because all I need is just like 2 mics. And because it's a lot more venues nowadays are interested into giving a focus to trans and queer voices. And so, well, I happen to be one of those, so I guess this is what I go for now, and this is what I'm gonna do this weekend. Actually, I'm gonna perform. I've been told like local LGBT and trans groups have been invited to come, so it's nice.
I appreciate the insight to all that. Thank you very much. I enjoyed learning that bits of stuff. I've never experienced that side of performing anything, so thank you.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's what I'm here for.
So what have been some of your favorite fan interactions or, fan interactions you've had as well? If any.
I've had so many fan interactions. There's this girl that cried at one of my shows at Moonlight Academy. Can't remember her name. I'm very sorry. She was there with her girlfriend, and I felt bad at the time for making her cry. I've learned now that usually when they cry, it's a good cry, but I always feel a little bad for them on the moment. And so I went up to that girl and I was like, hey, is it okay And she was like, no, it can really hit deep and whatever. And they started like opening up to me about, their experience, their past, which is a very common fan interaction for me. And over the years, I've learned to say, hey, hold on, you're maybe saying a bit too much for me right now, because sometimes it gets very deep or very strong. But I've also learned to listen and put a little distance between the events that I told and myself, because I also want to be there, and I realize that people see in me also an outlet, and so I always try to also be there when people want to talk about their experiences to me.
Wow.
And I don't remember what she said, but I told her, "You're just a diamond in the rough waiting for your time to shine." And I was like, I need to do something with that line. That's like such a good song. And so I just wrote like that on a piece of thing, kept it, and sometime later the thoughts, there are days with and days without. I was like, I need to do something with that as well. And I met someone on VRChat that raised me up, as it happens on VRChat sometimes. And in the moment, I wrote a song about my friendship to them, and also the fleetingness of what we had. And I did feel that probably wouldn't go anywhere at the time. So at the end of the verse, it's like the last verse is very much like, I want to see you when I'm gone. I want to see you make someone else smile. It was very much like, I'm very grateful for friendship as well. And so I completed that song, Diamond in the Rough. And like with that fan interaction, I got a piece of one of my songs. That was a very good one. Then like, I mean, like every time someone went up to me like, "Hey, can I take a photo with you?" I was like, "Wow." Oh yeah, I know one actually. I know one that's like really impressive. At the first Cease and Desist Fest. God, that's oh no, oh my leg. At the first Cease and Desist Fest, I someone went up to me to, after like when people were asking for photos, someone in Pingu Avatar goes up to me and it's like, "Hey, so I'm a kick streamer," and I'm like, "Oh God." Yes. And I'm streaming right now, but like I showed people like your music, and my chat absolutely loves it, and they made a rule and then my mod made a rule that says like, if anyone talks bad about Cookie, they get instantly banned and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, that's really cool. And they said, my mod was not always very keen on like trans people and everything, but now that they've heard your music, well, they're actually like, they understand it, and like they're like all trans rights and stuff. And like that's amazing. And now I see that person on VRChat, actually they're actually great. And um it really struck me that, I guess with my words, I managed to explain someone how it is really. And at that point, I felt like there was a purpose beyond just singing for singing. At that point, I started having the drive to try and get bigger gigs, because I was like, if I get bigger, more people get to hear what I have to say, and maybe more people either get to feel better or not feel alone about their feelings, or also get to understand who I am and who people like me are, and that we are not their enemies.
That's a very sweet thing to develop from playing music. I can actually empathize with that a bit as well. In most conversations I've had with people, especially those some people deem as horrible, you'd be surprised how easily people will be willing to listen to you if you just treat them like a person. People want to listen to you and even learn from you, and sometimes even change their mind by that same few words you gave them. So I think it's a very awesome thing you're doing, and I hope you keep with it.
Yeah, it's never it's always okay to change your mind, and I think we should celebrate, like, when people accept you things, they see things differently, or open up about something, or learn from their mistakes. We should be more celebrating to that, especially with kids, because that's when you learn, and when you learn to be who you're gonna be. But you shouldn't have to, because one of the things that keeps people from changing or from understanding, that will make people like put on blind, you know, like get blindsided and everything. Make sure like it's shame. Like
Mm.
people will not want to face the shame that they were wrong about something. You'll see that about like conspiracy theories and stuff. Is that as humans we feel shame in a very physical way.
Mm.
Shame feels horrible physically. And so your brain is like, I don't want to feel pain right now.
Mm.
So I'd rather lie to myself than feel pain. And I feel like if we encourage people to be honest about that they were wrong, and when people say, sorry, I was wrong, actually, I do realize now that this and that. And you're like, wow, I'm really glad you did. Or we celebrate that people change their mind. It can be an incentive to the brain of someone who's going through the, oh God, I'm going to feel shame. I'll be like, actually, no, it's not going to be shame. And in fact, maybe people are going to be like, hey, that's cool that you did that. Right?
Mm.
So when people change their mind, of course, it depends on, what it is about. And it's always okay to not want to talk to someone who hurt you. I'm not saying that you should like forgive someone who really hurt you or something, but I'm saying that if someone around you has changed their mind about something, don't go like, aha, you shit, I told you, right? Like,
Yeah.
just let them, at least they're probably already feeling pretty bad about it. Don't rub it in, I guess.
Mm. I very much can agree with all of that. I've always been a person to talk with everybody. It's something I've been with since that has hit me since a kid. So I always enjoy seeing people, especially those who don't agree, have conversations. It makes me personally excited. So I always will always celebrate the people doing what you do, sharing how you feel on a stage. It can be a very fear-filling thing. So thank you.
Yeah. I mean, on stage, I'm just performing and people take my music as it comes, right? But off stage, I will listen to people. Always.
Well, thank you for doing what you do. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm really glad you're doing what I do. It makes me very happy. It's very fulfilling.
I remember a conversation with an older gentleman in a hospital I had a long time ago, and he said, "If you enjoy what you do, you never work a day in your life." And that's one of the many conversations that has stuck with me as a person.
It is true, but I will say, I now have a girlfriend that I love very much, and I love spending time with her so much. And now I have to find a work-life balance. Even if I enjoy my work so much, that I don't feel like what I do is work or painful or whatever. I now have to find, that like, well, and actually, no, I want to spend time with my girlfriend here. I want to be here from her, you know. And it's what's happened ever since I came back from Germany. I haven't played a lot of gigs. If you're one of my fans, I'm very sorry. I know I used to play like 2 gigs a week in August, but right now it's a little complicated. I am in between my studio and the city of Madrid. I am driving 5 hours to and from every weekend to see her because I love her madly. At some point, I will settle somewhere where I can actually be working, all week and also be with her. But right now it is not possible. So I am in a bit of a weird time. I know that I haven't been on VRChat a lot. Sorry to my fans, sorry to my friends. It's been complicated. But I'm looking forward to when I can actually be more present on VRChat because I miss it. I miss it so much. I miss y'all so much. I miss playing here a lot. And time will come where I can actually do that more. Yeah, it's so yeah. You never work a day in your life, and it's true. And again, I decided to stop my mechanical engineering studies because I was like, I can't do that. I just can't do that as a work. I don't want to do that as work. It's soul crushing. So I decided to go for something where I would like feel happy with. So I totally understand that. But saying that it's not work is, I think, a little toxic because you are putting in the hours. You are getting yourself tired. You are getting, it is not work. And especially in this day and age and in my generation where we're constantly told that, we're freeloaders or that we can't work or whatever. When you grow up telling like you're not enough or anything, you really always have to struggle against this like imposter syndrome. But sometimes it's important to tell yourself, no, I am working. I'm a working adult. I work so many hours every week on what I do. I love doing it. I don't feel like I'm, going out every morning to like drag some cinder blocks on on like a building construction site or something, but it's still work. And it should be recognized as such.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the insight. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Last couple of questions before we close up. First of which is the name you use in VRChat. Where did you get it and why do you still use it?
Thank you. I had I was known as Kookie with a Y before I transitioned, and I wanted to feminize it.
Ah.
So I put it IE.
Ah.
Wow. It's so deep. And I guess because I've always been called a cookie person, being a little weird and stuff, at least before transition. Oh, wow. I guess I was a cookie person because I had no idea what I was doing with myself. What? Crazy. I'm still a little weird, but not as much, I guess.
And the avatar you're in, what makes you use it, and is there anything about it that means anything to you?
Yes. Why do I use this avatar? At first, this was just supposed to be a prop avatar for the music video of Color Me Shocked. My old avatar that everyone knows me for, at least in its most current version, is this. It's loading. It's an error. I see. Looks like it is dead.
I see you fully. I saw you fully.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Okay, so you see this one. Okay, I think
Yes.
I got booted from the VRChat avatar servers then. Yeah.
Oh.
Let me just so well anyway you can see it, so it's fine. So this is the otter that people know me for. Yeah, she's she was what like people knew me for, and like the whole shtick with her that after a while I didn't even talk, I would just go like cute stuff. And I was happy with it, but I had a few complaints. One, as my transition IRL was progressing, I felt more and more happy with my body. and I just wanted to feel feminine, which you don't feel too feminine inside of an otter avatar. It's cute, but it's cute in a cute way, not cute in a feminine way, I guess. And it would get misgendered all of the time because this base is mostly used by little gay freaks. Little gay boy freaks. Y'all know what you are. Y'all are an interesting community. But I so people see an otter and they're like, gay boy. But they don't think that, it might be a woman. And on VRChat, people misgender you based on your voice a lot. So I was like, I don't know, I'm still on the fence about the avatar. And I was looking at other avatars, other furry avatars. And so then I start making the plans for the music video, and I stumble upon the Twel avatar, and I'm like, okay, like yeah, I like this. It looks like it has problems. So I modified it, removed the ears, removed the tail, changed the hoodie with the help of Bert Satan. Thank you, Bert. I gave it like runny makeup and stuff, and kind of gave it this like I wanted to look like a person early transition. I at the time its working title was Dysphoria Chan. Like it was supposed to be a physical representation of gender dysphoria, and which I think it achieves a little bit. And I went and started recording the takes for the Calling Me Shocked video. At the time, I didn't have full body tracking, so my FBT model was Bert Satan. If you see the video, the person dancing in a cute anime girl avatar is Bert Satan. Do with that what you will. And I watch him dancing. I'm like, holy shit, I like it. Oh my god, it looks so good when it moves. And I was like showing Bird like what to do with my hands and half body in the avatar as well. We log off, next day log on, and I just look at my hands and I'm like, that looks good. And I look at myself like, that looks good. And I just kept it until like I go to an event and people are like, Kookie, where's the otter? I'm like, oh yeah, right. And so I bring the otter back. I drew a little bit of like, and I'm like, actually it doesn't fight with me anymore. So I went back to the girl, and I was like, I guess I need to give a reason. So I recorded a little video with Bert Satan that I need to upload on my YouTube. Actually, it's only on my Twitter for now, and Twitter is very dead now. So I'll put it on my Blue Sky and I'll put it on my YouTube. Anyway, I record a video where like the joke is that the whole character of the otter at the end ended up just being like a squeaky thing that steals shit from people. On the final avatar, the guitar says property of Whispers. Like supposedly she stole the guitar from Whispers. She has like stolen cable everywhere. She just steals. She's a little klepto. And in the video, she goes to bother Bert Satan in the subway, and it pisses him off, and he snaps his fingers. She disappears, very comedically speaking, and then I awake in this avatar, and then there's like a huge like huge wall of text to just say in the end that I just like the new avatar and it's my new avatar. But yeah, but that's the weird part. It's like I went to like having a persona as a furry creator to having none, and so people are like, "Are you even a furry now?" I'm like, I am. I think. I don't know.
Oh, well, thank you very much for sharing the background of your avatar transitions from one into the other. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much. And
Yeah, thank
Well,
you.
thank you for coming on and sharing your tale with us. It was an absolutely amazing time, and thank you. I enjoyed every minute of it.
Same. Absolutely. I enjoyed, well, yeah, being able to share. And I enjoy what you do, and I hope people who listen through will have enjoyed tonight. No matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, remember you're loved, you're beautiful, you're valid. Thank you for listening to me.
And if anyone in the audience wishes to reach out and find you, where should they go?
So they can go to cookiesings.card.co, which is my card. But you can listen to my music on all of your favorite streaming platform. Hey, if you're in the car right now listening to the podcast afterward, you might as well go on Spotify and just look up Cookie. You can look up Color Me Shocked. You can look up Born Again, which are titles, and just find on.
Oh, oh. All of it for the person in the car, whoever's enjoyed this, everything will be in the description down below.
Anywhere really, and of course on here.
Oh, well, thank you very much, and we'll make sure you put all of the links for them to find easily, especially if you're driving. Pull over, damn it! Right in the description of the video or Spotify video description. We'll make sure everything is right down there for them to find. So thank you again. It's been an absolute
Yay.
honor to have you. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for having me again.
No problem. And as always, before I hand it over to Raptor to close this out, we'll give you, the audience, a question. And we love to always read your answers. We're going to ask you this. What was the last piece of media that made you feel something? We'd love to know what it was and why. Write down the hoobly what's it. Raptor, as always, you know the thing.
You got you. No matter what you do, if you got a dream, just like Cookie does, you shoot for it, play it, and sing it. In this case, even wrote about it. So if you think about where you are and what you're doing, think of a song that you might just play on the day that you're doing it. Have a good one, folks. We'll talk to you later. Bye.